I'm John Britton.
And I'm Angela Jameson, and together we've created the School of Humankind.
We'd like to welcome you to Humanity, where Angela, I, and sometimes other guests get ourselves a cup of tea and talk about the things that matter, how to be human in a really complicated world. Computer. Well, good morning to you, Angela.
And good afternoon to you, John.
Heat wave here in Ireland.
Heat wave here in sunny Saskatoon.
It's ridiculous. Spend half my life having to talk loud when I talk to you because the wind is howling outside, and you're showing me the thermostat on the wall of your office, and it says minus 40 degrees. And now I'm going, I'm a bit overwhelmed by this.
I know heat is, well, here we go from extremes. It's the minus 40 and then we go plus 40, and I just don't know how our buildings stand up to that. It's just crazy.
We don't ever go. I mean, probably putting in nothing much above plus 25, but it's still, if you're used to 10 degrees, which is roughly what it is most of the time here, 25 suddenly feels super hot.
Yes. It's all relative, isn't it, John?
It is. I've worked in Delhi just in the days before the monsoon hit, and that was like trying to walk through a microwave at full power. It was very, very overwhelming.
Oh, yes,
I've worked on
absolutely.
Greek islands when it's been over 40 as well, and it's just, then you don't breathe. Or at least you do,
No,
but only very, very slowly and shallowly.
exactly. Because it feels like you're just filling your lungs with fire.
Well, what I am doing is I'm filling my stomach with tea. I should tell you about my tea for today. Today's tea is a very simple little concoction. Half a Sri Lankan cinnamon stick
Ooh,
covered with boiling water. That's it. Simple as that.
cinnamon is so good for you.
Very good for your blood sugar, particularly. And as a diabetic, I appreciate such things.
Yes, because it's nice and sweet for you.
It is, but it actually regulates blood sugar, but only apparently the Ceylon or the Sri Lankan cinnamon,
Oh, really?
not the more common Chinese cinnamon, which does not have that particular blood sugar lowering property.
That's because us Asians love chubby people because it means you're wealthy. So we probably bred that into our cinnamon sticks.
So
Make people fat.
the plant evolved intelligently by going, if we allow all the people around here to be chubby, they will cultivate us and love us. But if we make them all
Yes,
slim, they will cut us down and treat us as weeds.
exactly. And I'm drinking a very simple concoction as well that I did not hunt and gather from anywhere, but it's ginseng tea.
Ah.
But I was reading the box and it basically does everything for you, including raise your children. It was amazing list of properties of it will fix menopause, it will fix erectile dysfunction, it will, it's just good for everybody and everything.
Does it put anywhere side effects may include death?
Perhaps, but I didn't read that fine print.
As somebody who I have to take quite a lot of drugs because of heart condition, diabetes, all of that stuff. And usually when I get a new drug, I look through the leaflet in there, and almost always in there it says side effects might include difficulty breathing, nausea, gastroenteritis, and death. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
That's quite a side effect.
Well, we're getting all these advertisements from the States, and I don't know if you get them over there in Ireland, but it's one of those, if you take this drug, you might, but and then there's a whole laundry list of horrible things that could happen to you if you take this drug. So it's one of those interesting, but I suppose they have to admit it.
They have to admit it, yeah. After years of saying nothing possibly could go wrong with this drug apart from all these terrible things that are going to go wrong.
Yes. And this morning, as we were setting up, I had to run into my son's room, and there was all these containers that I thought, oh my gosh, is he taking all this medication that I didn't know about? So, and I shook it because it sounded like tablets. And I looked in. No, They're different kinds of screws. So as an engineering family, it just swelled me with pride. We
Swells your heart. Unfortunately, when my heart swells, I have to take drugs to get it down. But there we go. Yeah, I love that you've raised a hardware addict as a son.
I know.
Engineering through and through.
So proud.
Hey, so what are we talking about today, Angela? You brought in the topic. You tell us what we're talking about.
Well, it's something that I actually addressed with my membership this month, and it was quite an energizing topic among them. And it was the the topic of questions and the questions we ask ourselves. So it's one of those things of directing your mind, because what we talk about in relaxed productivity is not doing less, but actually managing your thoughts better. And one of the things that really helps is how we talk to ourselves. We've heard it probably with a lot of people is what you say to yourself is, would that be what you would say to your best friend? And so, with a lot of these questions we ask ourselves, it really helps us focus our mind, because our brains are pattern finding, answer seeking mechanisms. So, if you ask yourself, something bad happens and you go, oh man, why am I so stupid? Your brain will actually try to find ways or times to remember when you were so stupid.
Mm.
And so all of these things will flood into your mind, and then you'll feel like crap. And then, it's just all downhill from there until you can scoop yourself up from the hole or fall asleep and wake up feeling better. So if we can learn to ask ourselves better questions, that focuses your mind in ways that build you up instead of knock you down. So when bad things happen, you say, okay, that sucked, but what can I learn from this? Or what has this shown me that I prefer? Asking those kind of alternate questions instead of going down our normal rabbit hole has proven to be quite useful.
So you said in there, you said many interesting things, but one thing particularly that struck me. Uh, you described the brain as pattern finding and meaning seeking. Now, you see, those two are two different things. Pattern finding is about achieving an answer. Meaning seeking is about going through the process towards some kind of answer. One is about an outcome, a pattern, and one is about a quest, seeking for something. Now, I
I don't think
feel,
I said meaning. I think I said like goal or something or answer. But anyway,
yeah,
kind of
well, so
similar.
I suppose what I'm saying is the difference between questions which seek an answer or questions that encourage us to engage in an inquiry
Hmm.
without necessarily expecting there to be an answer.
Yeah.
And I often feel in my own thinking, especially when facing, when I go, I really wish I hadn't done that, or I don't think that was a good choice, or whatever, to preface a question to myself with, I wonder why I. So
Mhm.
it's not, why did I do that? Because why did I do that is sort of suggesting there might be an answer. Why did I do that? I did it because I was stressed. And simple answers are almost always too simple. But I wonder why I did that. Well, it might partly be because I was stressed. It might partly be because actually that person did say something that was really very rude. And so we begin to get to a nuanced answer because we're not looking to go, what is the answer to the question, but what are the elements that I can find as I explore the question? So if we talk about meaning seeking or goal seeking, we are talking, I think, about the active quest of looking. And I think the same is true if we, want to question others. And I don't really do much coaching now, but, you know, in the days when I did, when somebody brings you something, And, the response is, okay, not why do you think that? Or why did you do that? But I wonder why you did that. Or what do you reckon? What are the things that you were feeling deep down that maybe led to that, or whatever? Something which is always about the process of hunting, and it's very interesting for me because it attaches directly to my work as an artist, which is always about engaging in the process and not worrying about the product.
Yeah, and I think the way you ask that changes it from a kind of blaming question to a curious question to yourself.
Mm,
Just saying, okay, this happened. I wonder why, instead of like, why the bleep did I do that? You know, so it's softer. And because a lot of times when you self-criticize, you can find a lot of times where you screwed up.
mm.
And and to remind yourself of that is never fun. But to be curious as to, if it in your example of now I can't even remember, but I remember thinking you can actually find why, if someone was rude to you, why did that actually bother me?
Mm.
Like, what is the deeper reason that that bothers me? Because if you were, this enlightened being sitting on a cloud, which none of us are yet, hopefully, thankfully, you would see it as that other person's issue.
Mm.
But because it tweaked something in you, you've got something that is tweakable. And what is that?
And as soon as you ask about, I wonder why, or to use your word, gauge with curiosity, you make yourself and others and the world an object of discovery. And
Yes.
we humans love to discover. I mean, it's,
Well, because we're so fascinating.
well, we are. And because also, it's for evolutionary and many other reasons, we are hardwired to learn things. We love learning. I mean, I've not had children, but I've worked a lot with young children. They are utterly fascinated by all kinds of discovery. And when if you, I was just did a project in a primary school where I was mixing sort of drama work with visual artwork and so on. And if a child draws a picture and it may be technically or, not very good, or you may not know what the picture is. And, if you go, why did you draw it like that? It's sort of a closed question, really.
Mm.
But if you go, I wonder what that is, the child will often open up huge realms of understanding, which, this is what the child is doing. But if I jump to going, I want an answer to the question of why I don't get it, I deny the child the right to explore those realms of understanding. So um, there was a boy in a school I did a while ago, and it was a rural school. He was always interested in tractors. He always
Mm.
wanted to draw tractors. We weren't doing anything about tractors in the project, uh, but it was all about everything. Every time he drew something, it was a tractor and so on. And it's very easy to go. He draws tractors. He comes from a farming family. Da da da. Reach some kind of conclusion. But then when I sort of talked to him, I discovered he didn't come from a farming family, or he
Oh,
sort of did. But his parents lived on a local housing estate, but his grandparents were farmers. And suddenly a whole thing opens up there about intergenerational identification. Does he identify with his granddad more than with his dad? Or does his dad bring in a sense of wishing that he was a farmer? Or
mhm.
there's all sorts of things there.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that. I'm fascinated by that. Can I bring that own same curiosity to my examination of myself and my own actions?
Yeah. Yeah. And as you were talking, I was kind of reminded that we need to go back to our childlike curiosity, where everything is possible. And, where exactly was this barrier or this armor installed?
Mm,
And is it really true? Does this actually help me in my quest through life? Is it holding me back? Because that's kind of where we get, we're born with these beautiful childlike minds where
mm,
we're just soaking everything in and we're learning all this stuff. And then slowly you get affected by approval. Did I do something that angered my parents? Are they punishing me for
mm.
what? And all of these little things, and then there's teachers and then there's friends, and all of that starts to build your armor, I call it, because it's stopping us from being our free self.
Mm.
So when we ask the questions, because when we get a negative emotion, it's because there's something that's tweaking you. And I don't know why I'm starting to talk about tweaking because I've never done that before, but it just seems to be appropriate at the moment. But it's that negative emotion is alerting you to the fact that there's something there that maybe you need to ask an intelligent question about, a curious question.
So often, I think that the foundation of that, what you're calling a negative feeling or negative emotion, is shame or
Mm,
fear of shame. And the heart of shame is that we are fearing that we are going to be excluded, that we will not belong.
mm,
It's a fear of not belonging. And this comes to my fundamental belief that the self, our understanding of the self, needs to be an understanding of connection. It's not, the self is not an internal thing. The self is a relational thing. But yeah, I was thinking about just this actually a couple of hours ago. Um, I had to drive down to the local town, which is half an hour's drive away. I live in a very remote place, uh, and with my partner, we went down had to go to the supermarket get some food. And just coming back, we stopped in a lay-by by the water where the bay comes in, and there's a little coffee van there. And we stopped there, get a cup of iced coffee. She's only been there for a few weeks. It's really lovely, lovely to support local
mm,
businesses, but also she seems to be really lovely and so on. But there was another family there, um, probably Indian or Bangladeshi or Pakistani. I would take a guess at South Indian. Youngish couple with a very small child, 3 years old. Um, and we sort of smiled and smiled, said hello, hello. But the child was utterly delightful. Just one of those faces that beamed with joy. And he
mm.
waved at me and I waved back, and he was so happy. And, all of that, we know this
Oh,
sort of thing.
yeah.
And I was looking at it going, we are brought into this world full of desire for connection, curiosity, joy, fascination, wanting to learn, going, who is this new person? Who is this? There is no reason that boy would not have been able to conceive of a reason not to connect with me, except if I was loud or cruel or I was breaking connection or I was, had a
Yeah.
hostile energy. As long as I was there to be open, that boy wanted connection. Now, of course, as he grows older, he will learn self-defense and, all of these things. But when people chat about human nature as if it's somehow we're competitive and cruel, I think that is absolute crap.
Mm,
Our basic nature is full of delight and
mhm.
joy and a desire to connect and curiosity. And then, we lose it. It is educated
Yes.
out of us or whatever. But when we're
Yes.
interested in looking at the nature of our daily lives and questions that we ask ourselves about our daily lives, if we can start re-engaging with ourselves with that childlike curiosity, going, wow, that's really interesting. It might hurt like hell, but it's actually really interesting. Or it's really interesting why that person was so deeply unpleasant to me.
Yes.
Why is that? So the engaging in the process of inquiry
Yeah.
seems to me profoundly healthy, but also likely to bring you to much better insights than asking questions that begin with why, what, or how.
Yes. And as you were talking, I was thinking your aim for your questions is to bring you back to joy.
Yeah.
Because as you're describing this child, there's just this total feeling of joy. And I believe exactly what you said is that we're born wanting connection. This is the human gift. This is why I think we exist and we love being in community, is that feeling of belonging. And sometimes somewhere along the way, we get hurt or we get excluded, and then you start to protect yourself.
Mm.
And the best way you can protect yourself is by pulling away. I heard a theory, even introverts are protecting themselves from the fear of not belonging.
Mm.
And then they're making it true,
Yeah.
by pulling away first.
Mm.
Um, and as you were talking about this child, I thought about one of my cousins, who I hope I'm not outing them, but they operate from a place of mistrust. The first thing when they meet someone is, this person might hurt me.
Mm.
So they have to do something first that allows me to trust them,
Mm.
instead of coming from a position of, I love you, you're the best, from that feeling the child gave you. I can imagine the feeling um, my cousin gives people is, okay, show me how good you are.
Yeah.
Prove yourself to me. And, that's a totally different way to appear in the world. And I do feel affects the way they move through the world compared to what this child will will move through. I mean, connecting with you, a total stranger. And it always surprises me how people get to the middle of nowhere. How did you arrive here in the middle of nowhere, Ireland, with this beautiful brown child?
And it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. And tangentially related, but I think it's related. I'm always endlessly fascinated by um, the way people interact with me when they come into my art studio, because I have an open
Mm,
studio, as you know, and people just wander in and maybe 1 in 50 people actually buy something, and 49 people come in and look around for a few minutes, or sometimes stay for half an hour and chat and whatever. And so many adults will go, "Oh, I'm not creative," or "I don't have an artistic bone in my body," or whatever. And I don't believe that. I think that's absolute nonsense. Uh, but it is often very confronting or makes them quite vulnerable when I sort of go, well, I don't really believe that. In what ways are you creative?
mm,
Where's the creative stuff in your life? Or they look at one of my pure abstracts and says, "What's that meant to be?" And I never want to answer that question because I don't think it might mean something to me, but what it means to me doesn't matter. What matters is what it means to them. So I say, "Well, I don't know. What do you see in there?"
right.
And you see them go, "You are asking me to engage with myself, not from a position of certainty. I am not creative. I am waiting for you to tell me what this means. I am not capable of trusting my own opinion." And I'm saying to them, engage with yourself with curiosity. Because I think that's partly what artists do. We engage with the world with curiosity and encourage other people to engage with curiosity. And for some, it's a delight. They go, "Oh, well, it looks a bit like this or a bit like that." And I go, "Oh, brilliant. I haven't seen that before." But someone else said it looked like this. And they go, "Oh, yeah, it does, doesn't it?" And then we get great. And sometimes they just sort of, the shutters come down. And
Yeah, you cause them sweaty pits.
yeah, absolutely. And you go, because I am saying don't be certain,
Mm,
be curious, they go, sweaty pits. Totally. They
yeah.
go, "I might get this wrong. I might shame myself.
Yes.
I might say something." he won't laugh at me because he's trying to sell to me, but deep down he'll be thinking I'm stupid. And they impose all of this cynicism on things. I mean, I often think cynicism is just emotional cowardice anyway. It's
Mm,
a fear of being vulnerable, of saying,
mm,
hey, this picture I'm looking at, I don't know what the hell it is.
right.
Amazing. Let's stare at it for a bit, see what it tells
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But children, when they come into the space, I say, what's your favorite picture? I've got all sorts of stuff in my space. They almost always pick pure abstracts, not the more
Ooh,
representational things. Almost
really?
always pick the pure abstracts. Often
Huh.
some of the most austere, pure black ink on paper, no color, nothing. And I say, what does it look like to you? And there's no stopping them.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's fantastic. And then often, because I've got a little box of very small artworks, £10 artworks, all handmade on handmade paper. And if I've had a good old chat with a child, or a child is obviously keen to be artistic, goes, oh, I paint with this. I often say, find one that you like and take it with you, have it. And they usually pick the abstracts, the really
Huh.
abstract ones, the blot of ink that I've just put on the paper and allowed it to spread in amorphous ways. And they go, oh, that's great. It looks like a cat. I go, does it? No, I can't see that. I can't see no cat. But they can see a cat, so hell, it looks like a cat.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not for me to say what it looks like. Just because I made it doesn't mean I get to say what it is. And I
Yeah.
love that exciting, divine curiosity. And it makes me very sad when I lose it in myself or I see it
Yes.
lost in others.
Yeah. And it is the normal path for adults to lose it a little. And in traffic, you lose it a lot. But you know what I mean, is
Yeah.
through our life experiences, we start to lose that curiosity, that total self acceptance, that ability to say, this is what I think, because part of you is always worried about judgment about what you think. But as you said, the children will say, oh, that looks like a cat, when you're like, I don't see a cat anywhere, but fine,
Mm.
we're afraid. And I was the same way. If you talk about the famous comparison of a fixed and a growth mindset, I was definitely a fixed mindset growing up, because there was always the right answer for me to get better grades, for
Sure.
which my parents judged me by. Or, the award you would get if you played piano the right way, that was rewarded in my family. So the actual growth that you made, if you just starting from nowhere, getting to somewhere, if that somewhere wasn't where you were supposed to be to get an award, that growth was never celebrated.
Mm. Mm.
So I grew up very fixed, almost to the point of, I remember an engineering supervisor asking me, so what do you think about this? And it's like, I was afraid to say what I thought about it, because how was he going to judge me?
Mm.
But by not actually having an opinion, I think that's worse, because, the opinion is needed to have a discussion,
Yeah.
you know. And why was I so afraid to give an opinion? Because I was afraid to be judged.
And if the opinion, if we can hold our opinions lightly, in other words, say, my opinion about this situation or about myself or about anything else is the starting point for an inquiry, not the end point of
Yes.
inquiry. So I think this. Now let's talk about it and let's see if that
Yes.
holds up under the weight of conversation. Or are you going to convince me otherwise? Or if I go, oh, I'm really stupid, and then I go, okay, well, let's think about this. Am I stupid? Or
Yeah.
and so the opinion becomes a starting off point, the point of departure, not the point that you're trying to reinforce. You go, why am I so stupid? Assumes that you are actually stupid, as
Yes.
opposed to going, that felt really stupid. I wonder why I did that. And then you can
And
go,
yeah.
let's go on a little journey of exploration here.
And I think that whole concept, I mean, it feels like it's more natural to you because you're an artist, and and I love how you describe your paintings as a conversation between you and the paint and the paper.
Mm.
I love that, because I go into art saying I want it to look like this, and then if it doesn't look like this, it's a failure, you know? And I think that mindset made me delay writing my book for decades because why would like what are people going to think of me? You know, that it is a fairly weird concept, but something that always spoke to me. So it's like writing my book, I delayed it because it's probably because I was worried what people would think. And it was interesting. My daughter had written me this card to say, just write the book. You know, she saw it weighs on my spirit. And she said, let go of it afterwards.
Mm.
You might not even agree with the book or like the book a year after, but it's okay because at that moment that you published, that's what you thought. And it's okay to not like it yourself or disagree with it a year later. And you know, I still like it a year later, but
Yeah.
it's
Hold
one of
on.
those evolving things.
Hold on. I do have to just ask something here, Angela.
Ask me.
Are you saying that you have a son who is an engineering addict and therefore the pride and joy of an engineering family? And you have a daughter who has wisdom way beyond her years and is a creative coach and therefore is the pride and joy of a writing family. Have you raised two? I know you have three, don't you? So, but at least two of such extraordinary skills that they are already achieving what most of us spend our lifetime working towards, which is the ability to function.
I know these kids, they come out just better than we are. And I'd like to preface, my daughter also has an engineering degree. So
Fantastic.
so she has, you know, the foundations of it. So it's like just we're waiting for number three to announce he will go into engineering. No, I don't really care what he does. We're
So I,
actually we're hoping he goes into healthcare so that we can have someone to care for us in our aged
absolutely.
years.
Oh, now this is now you're beginning to enter into the cliche of the Asian parent. We want one a
Yep,
doctor,
stepping
one a
in.
lawyer, or one a doctor, one a lawyer, one an engineer.
Yeah, we already screwed that up. We got two engineers.
Yeah, well, because of course now this brings me to the question of why am I such a failure? Because
Ooh,
I'm none of these things, but that's not a useful question as we've been
no, that is
exploring.
so not useful. Wipe that
But
away.
some questions are useful, like why is my teacup empty?
Yes. But if I may
Yes.
talk about some other useful questions that might help people. Um, so, for instance, if you're stressed, to ask yourself what is actually true in this moment, not what your emotions are, but what are actually the facts. Because when you can strip your emotions away, you can actually see the problem a bit clearer. So ask yourself, what is actually true in this moment? And then when you're overwhelmed, what is the next logical step? So what step will make you take one step of progress compared to spinning your wheels in overwhelm? Just take one little step forward. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, what am I learning from this situation? And what is it showing me that I really want? So, for instance, when someone's rude to you, you are learning how you want people to talk to you, how you want people to relate to you. And so you want better relationships. You want to be able to relate to people better than this person is doing to you right now. And at bedtime, I was telling my membership, ask yourself, what is a moment today where I was fully present? So that they can remember that moment and really savor it and put it into their long-term memory. So those are just a few examples that maybe help our listeners to ask themselves when things go wrong. So there. And my teacup is almost empty as well.
In an abundance mindset, we say, my cup runneth over, but technically my cup doesn't run anywhere. It's bone dry. So I think it's time for us to say until next time.
Until next time, John.
It's always a joy to talk with you, Angela.
A childlike joy.
Absolutely. What other kind of joy is there, really? Talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to know more about School of Humankind, please visit our website at www.schoolofhumankind.com, or you can drop us an email on hello@schoolofhumankind.com. Take care out there.